You raised them, sacrificed for them, and poured your heart into their well-being. You held their hands when they were small, stayed up through sleepless nights, and put their needs ahead of your own. But now, as you grow older, something feels different, something painful. The calls come less often. The visits are rare if they happen at all. And when you do hear from them, it's rushed, distracted, or worse, dismissive. Maybe they don't mean to be hurtful, but their actions or their silence say otherwise. If you ever felt ignored, disrespected, or like you no longer matter in your own children's lives, know this: you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not powerless. The pain of being overlooked by your own children is a wound unlike any other. It cuts deep, striking at the core of who you are, because they aren't just anyone. They are the people you poured your love, energy, and life into. Perhaps you've asked yourself, did I do something wrong? Was I not a good enough parent? Or maybe you've felt an urge to demand their attention, to remind them of everything you did for them. But here's a hard truth: chasing after their affection or seeking their validation will only leave you feeling emptier. No amount of pleading, guilt-tripping, or sacrificing even more of yourself will guarantee the respect or love you deserve. Instead, there's a different approach, one that will bring you peace, dignity, and even the possibility of rebuilding strained relationships. Right now, you might feel like you're at a crossroads. One path leads to frustration, resentment, and a constant battle to be seen and heard. The other path, however, leads to self-respect, emotional strength, and a deep sense of inner peace. That second path is the one we're going to explore today. It's not about cutting your children out of your life or pretending you don't care. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about recognizing that your worth is not defined by how your children treat you. Staying calm in the face of neglect or disrespect isn't weakness, it's wisdom. By responding with grace and emotional intelligence, you set the tone for how you deserve to be treated. Setting healthy boundaries doesn't mean you love them any less. It means you love yourself enough to not allow mistreatment. And most importantly, finding joy outside of your role as a parent is not selfish, it's necessary. Life does not end when your children stop prioritizing you. Your happiness is still yours to claim. So if you've been feeling invisible, if you've been wondering how to handle the pain of distant or disrespectful children, stay with me. Today, we're going to talk about the steps you can take to protect your peace, restore your self-worth, and build a life that is fulfilling, regardless of how others treat you, because in the end, your happiness should never depend on someone else's attention. It's time to shift the focus back to you, understanding the emotional pain of being ignored. There is no pain quite like being ignored or disrespected by your own children. It is a unique kind of heartbreak, one that leaves you questioning your worth and your past choices. You spent years raising them, nurturing them, and providing for them, only to find yourself pushed aside in the very moments you need connection the most. It may feel like a betrayal, a cold rejection from the very people you thought would always be there, but here's what you must remember. Their behavior is a reflection of them, not of your value as a parent or as a person. In many cases, adult children become so consumed with their own lives, work, relationships, responsibilities, that they fail to realize the hurt they are causing. Others might be carrying unresolved emotions, whether from childhood misunderstandings or their own struggles. Some may even take your love for granted, assuming you will always be there, waiting, no matter how they behave. The danger lies in how you respond to this pain. If you allow it to consume you, it can lead to resentment, bitterness, and a cycle of disappointment. You may find yourself replaying past moments, wondering where things went wrong, blaming yourself for their distance, or desperately trying to mend what feels broken. But before you let anger or sadness take control, step back and reassess. Your children's actions or inactions do not define your worth. Clinging to their attention, begging for their presence, or becoming overly emotional in an attempt to guilt them into caring will not bring them closer. Instead, it often pushes them further away. The first step toward healing is recognizing that you cannot control how others treat you, but you can control how you react. And that reaction should come from a place of strength, not desperation. The power of staying calm and emotionally detached. When your children ignore you or treat you with disrespect, your natural instinct might be to lash out, demand answers, or express your disappointment. But this often leads to more distance, not resolution. Staying calm in the face of neglect is not about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them. Emotional intelligence means recognizing that your peace should not be dependent on someone else's behavior. When you react with anger or desperation, you give them control over your emotions. Instead, the most powerful thing you can do is maintain a sense of self-respect, refusing to engage in emotional battles that drain you. Think of it this way: the calmer you remain, the more dignity you preserve. If they expect you to be angry or needy and instead see you carrying yourself with grace and self-assurance, it can shift the dynamic. When someone realizes that you are not begging for their love or validation, they start seeing you differently. In some cases, this even leads them to reassess their behavior. More importantly, staying emotionally detached protects your well-being. It stops you from replaying painful scenarios in your mind, from waiting by the phone, from allowing their actions to dictate your happiness. Does this mean you should be cold or indifferent? No. It means responding with quiet strength. If they don't call, you continue living your life. If they are rude, you set a boundary. If they ignore you, you find fulfillment elsewhere. The more at peace you are with yourself, the more you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of seeking their approval. By staying calm and detached, you remind yourself and them that your happiness is in your hands, not theirs. Reflecting on the past without guilt. If your relationship with your children is strained, you might find yourself looking back, wondering if something you did in the past caused this distance. It is human nature to replay events, to analyze every decision, to wonder if a different approach would have led to a different outcome. And while self-reflection can be healthy, drowning in guilt is not. The truth is, no parent is perfect. Every parent makes mistakes, says things they regret, or wishes they had handled certain situations differently. But dwelling on the past will not change the present. The only thing you can do is acknowledge what has been, take accountability where necessary, and then move forward without carrying unnecessary guilt. Some adult children hold on to grievances, real or imagined. They may blame you for things that were out of your control. They may fail to see the sacrifices you made. In some cases, they may even rewrite history in their minds, focusing only on the negative while forgetting the love and care they received. You cannot force them to see the full picture. You cannot undo the past, but you can choose to forgive yourself. If there were things you wish had been different, acknowledge them, make peace with them, and then release the weight of regret. Apologize only if it feels right, but do not beg for their forgiveness. Their healing is their responsibility, just as yours is yours. Ultimately, the past does not define your present. Clinging to guilt will only rob you of the joy that still exists in your life. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, focus on what you can do now to find peace. Sometimes that means extending a quiet olive branch. Other times it means accepting that not all relationships will be repaired, but no matter what, you must move forward with love for yourself, knowing that you did your best with what you knew at the time. Setting boundaries with love. One of the hardest lessons to learn as a parent is that unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance for mistreatment. Your children may be grown, but that does not give them the right to disregard your feelings, ignore your presence, or treat you with disrespect. You are still their parent, but more importantly, you are a person who deserves respect, care, and kindness. Setting boundaries is not an act of anger or revenge. It is an act of self-respect. It is telling the world and your children that you will not allow yourself to be treated as an afterthought. So what does this look like in practice? If your children only call when they need something, you are not obligated to comply. If they cancel plans repeatedly, you do not need to keep rearranging your life for them. If they speak to you with disrespect, you have every right to calmly but firmly let them know that you will not engage in conversations where you are not treated with dignity. Setting boundaries is about drawing a line between love and self-sacrifice. You can love your children deeply while still requiring that they show you basic decency. Some may resist at first. They may not be used to you asserting your needs. They may react with frustration, defensiveness, or even silence. But over time, clear boundaries create healthier relationships. They foster mutual respect. They protect your emotional well-being. And most importantly, they remind you that your worth is not determined by how much you give or tolerate. It is something that should be honored by your children and by yourself. If your children choose to walk away because you demand respect, let them. It may hurt, but it is better to be alone with dignity than to be surrounded by people who take you for granted. In the end, those who truly love and value you will respect your boundaries. And if they don't, then perhaps it is time to turn your energy towards the people and experiences that bring you peace, joy, and fulfillment. Finding joy outside of parental identity. For many parents, especially mothers, their children become the center of their world. It is only natural after years of nurturing, teaching, and providing. Your sense of purpose often becomes tied to your role as a parent. But what happens when those children grow up and no longer need you in the same way? What happens when they drift away, too caught up in their own lives to make space for you? If you have tied your identity solely to being a parent, their absence can leave you feeling lost, empty, and without purpose. This is why it is essential to cultivate a life beyond your children. You are more than just a parent. You are a person with your own dreams, interests, and abilities. The years ahead are yours to fill with joy, not just waiting for your children to remember you. Take this time to rediscover yourself, engage in hobbies you once loved, or try something new. Travel, even if it's just to a nearby town you've never explored. Connect with people who share your interests, whether that's through a book club, a gardening group, or a community center. Build friendships with those who value and appreciate you. Giving without expecting in return can also be a powerful source of fulfillment. Volunteer in your community, mentor younger generations, or simply spread kindness where you can. When you shift your focus from what you've lost to what you can create, you regain control of your happiness. Life does not stop when your children become distant. It is an opportunity to grow, to embrace new experiences, and to live fully. When your joy comes from within, no amount of neglect or indifference from others can take it away. Letting go of what you cannot control. One of the most freeing realizations in life is understanding that you cannot control other people. You can only control yourself. No matter how much love you have given your children, no matter how much you long for their presence, you cannot force them to treat you a certain way. Clinging to the hope that they will change, waiting for an apology that may never come, or constantly making excuses for their behavior will only keep you trapped in disappointment. Instead, the path to peace is through acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approving of their neglect or disrespect. It means understanding that you cannot control their actions, only your response to them. It means recognizing that your happiness does not have to depend on their choices. Letting go does not mean giving up on them entirely, but it does mean releasing the expectation that they will suddenly become the people you wish they were. Some wounds may never fully heal. Some relationships may never be what you hoped, and that is okay. What matters is that you do not let their actions define your life. Forgiveness is also part of this process, not necessarily for their sake, but for yours. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy burden on your shoulders every day. It weighs you down, steals your joy, and prevents you from moving forward. Forgiveness does not mean excusing their behavior. It means freeing yourself from the pain it causes. When you release the need to change what cannot be changed, you create space for peace, contentment, and even unexpected joy. VIG. Seeking professional help if necessary. Sometimes the pain of being ignored or disrespected by your children becomes too much to bear alone. The emotional wounds of feeling abandoned can be deep, bringing up past traumas, fears, and self-doubt. If you find yourself struggling with sadness, anxiety, or resentment that won't fade, seeking professional help can be a valuable step in your healing journey. Speaking to a therapist, counselor, or support group for estranged parents can provide you with the tools to process your emotions in a healthy way. There is no shame in needing help. Too often, older generations were taught to keep their pain to themselves, to just deal with it or be strong. But true strength is knowing when to reach out for support. A trained professional can help you reframe your thoughts, set healthier boundaries, and build emotional resilience. They can also guide you through strategies to improve communication with your children, if reconciliation is possible. Beyond therapy, finding comfort in spiritual or philosophical teachings can also bring peace. Many find solace in meditation, prayer, or simply practicing gratitude for what they do have, rather than focusing on what they lack. Writing in a journal can also be a powerful tool. Expressing your emotions on paper can help you release them instead of letting them fester inside. Healing takes time, but you do not have to walk this journey alone. There are people who understand, who have been where you are, and who can offer wisdom and guidance. The key is to take that first step, to choose your well-being, to prioritize your peace, and to remind yourself that no matter what, your life still holds beauty, meaning, and value. You have loved deeply, given selflessly, and done everything in your power to nurture and support your children. That love does not disappear just because they have become distant or because they failed to acknowledge your presence in their lives. But now, As you stand at this moment, feeling ignored, disrespected, or even forgotten, the most important question is this: where do you go from here? It would be easy to let resentment take over, to replay every painful interaction, to feel the weight of disappointment every time you check your phone and find no messages, or every holiday that passes without a visit. But you do not deserve to carry that pain any longer. You do not deserve to wake up every day feeling unwanted, wondering what you did wrong, or waiting for them to change. You deserve peace. You deserve happiness. And most importantly, you deserve to reclaim the life that is still yours to live. Letting go of the need for their approval. One of the hardest things to accept is that your children may never change. They may never show you the appreciation you deserve. They may never make you a priority in their lives. But here's the liberating truth: you don't need them to. Your worth is not determined by how they treat you. It is not measured by how often they call, how much they acknowledge your sacrifices, or whether they respect you in the way you had hoped. When you stop needing their approval to feel complete, you take back your power. You no longer have to measure your happiness by their attention. Instead, you begin to see that happiness was always within you. It was just waiting for you to claim it. When you accept that their actions do not define your value, you free yourself from the emotional chains that have kept you bound to their neglect. This doesn't mean you stop loving them. It doesn't mean you give up hope entirely. It simply means you refuse to let their absence rob you of your peace. You refuse to keep waiting for them to change before you allow yourself to be happy. You choose to live fully, regardless of what they do, or creating a life that brings you joy. So, where do you begin? How do you fill the space left behind by children who no longer prioritize you? You begin by shifting your focus from them to you. Maybe you have spent years putting their needs ahead of your own. Maybe you have given so much that you have forgotten what it feels like to do things simply because you enjoy them. Now is the time to rediscover that joy. Think about the things that used to make you happy before life became so focused on raising a family. Maybe you once loved to paint, to garden, to travel, or to write. Maybe there's a skill you've always wanted to learn but never had time for. Now that time belongs to you. Engage in activities that bring you fulfillment, not because they distract you from your pain, but because they remind you that life is still rich with beauty and possibility. Surround yourself with people who appreciate you, whether that's friends, community groups, or even new relationships. Seek out conversations that uplift you, experiences that excite you, and moments that make you feel truly alive. Most importantly, learn to enjoy your own company. There is a deep sense of peace that comes when you no longer feel lonely just because you are alone. When you begin to love and nurture yourself in the way you once did for others, you will find that you are no longer waiting for anyone else to complete you. The power of emotional strength and boundaries. As you move forward, there will be moments when the old pain resurfaces. There may be days when you feel the sting of rejection all over again, when an unanswered call or a forgotten birthday reminds you of the distance. But in these moments, remind yourself of the boundaries you have set, the strength you have built, and the life you are reclaiming. Boundaries are not just about protecting yourself from others. They are about honoring yourself. If your children only reach out when they need something, you are not obligated to meet every demand. If they speak to you with disrespect, you have every right to remove yourself from that conversation. If they continue to ignore you, you have the power to decide that your happiness will not be held hostage by their choices. This is not about cutting them off or harboring resentment. It is about choosing to love them from a place of strength rather than desperation. It is about letting go of the need to chase them, to fix them, or to prove your worth to them. You have already done enough. You are enough. Finding peace and acceptance. At the heart of this journey is acceptance. Acceptance that the past cannot be changed, that some relationships will always carry distance, and that not every bond can be repaired. Acceptance that love does not always come in the form we expect, and that sometimes the people we give the most to are the ones who give the least in return. But acceptance is not giving up. It is not resigning yourself to sadness. Instead, it is stepping into a place of peace, a place where you no longer fight against what is, but instead embrace what can be. It means making the most of the relationships that do bring you joy. It means finding comfort in the small, everyday moments that make life beautiful. It means choosing to wake up each day not with a heavy heart, but with gratitude for the love, wisdom, and experiences that have shaped you. And most of all, it means recognizing that your story is not over. There are still memories to be made, still laughter to be shared, still love to be felt, even if it does not come from the places you once expected. A final word of encouragement. You are not alone in this. So many parents, just like you, have walked this path. They have felt the same heartbreak, the same disappointment, the same longing for what once was. And yet, many of them have found peace. They have found fulfillment in new places, in new ways, and most importantly, within themselves. You have the strength to do the same. Do not let anyone, not even your own children, define your happiness. Do not wait for them to change before you give yourself permission to live fully. The years ahead are yours to embrace, to fill with purpose, to enjoy in the way you choose. So take a deep breath, let go of the pain, and step forward into the life that is still waiting for you, because you deserve joy, you deserve respect, and you deserve to live with a peace that comes from knowing that your worth has never depended on anyone else's recognition. If this message resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments. You are not alone in this journey, and your story may help someone else who is struggling. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay connected for more content that empowers and uplifts. Remember, you are worthy of love, respect, and happiness, no matter what.